start with a pledge of allegiance. You'll stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right? Okay, is there any
that
public
back.
comment?
Put that back outside the house after the meeting. So
Okay. Any public comment? You see any?
I'm looking. If you're here from the public and you wish to speak during this part, raise your hand and we can call on you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Okay, I see, is it Catherine Monavan? So Richard, member of the public. So they're gonna ask, I'm gonna unmute you and then you state your name and where you're from for the record and you're free to speak.
Hi, I'm Katie Montavin and I'm from Chessberry, Vermont. And I'm a parent of a first grader in Chessberry Elementary School and wanted to ask the board, I know that there's a lot of state money coming in for programming and wanted to ask that the board think about allocating some of that towards after school programs and maybe starting what could be sustainable after school programs for kids of working parents. Because the fact that school gets out at 3 is really a challenging thing when there are no after school care options, especially after the pandemic of the last year and everything we've been dealing with.
Are you
Yeah,
referring to like next year? Or are you talking about the summer?
I would say next year. Summer, there's camps and there's things that are coming up and
Right.
getting covered. But next year, hopefully we go back to 8 to 3. But 3 o'clock is really early for a working parent to try to figure out to pick up. And I
It is
hear
hard.
Caleb Becker at the rec center maybe starting an after school program. But I know that there's a lot of working parents in the area that have a real struggle with this.
do.
And with the money, that would be a really helpful thing for the working parents.
Jim, you want to speak to that?
Yep, I won't go into detail because this is public comment. I know it's your first time in the meeting, so the policy says it's not public discussion, it's public comment, but I will address it to tell you that this is being considered by the administration along with a lot of other plans. Right now, we're in full planning for what is going to be our summer program, but extended day is certainly something that our team is looking at to apply to all schools evenly. It's always a question of sustainability and staffing, but we know what the impact of that is. And some of our schools have had extended days before that have gotten curtailed under this. So we're not opposed to the idea, and it's certainly something that the administration is considering.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right, is there any other public comments?
I don't see any.
Don't see any? All right, then we'll go right to the consent agenda. But I have a motion for the consent agenda. I can't see anyone, Jim, so I'm relying on you.
Okay.
So move.
Okay, can I have all right, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any
So
discussion? on
let's,
any
for
part?
Richard, so Dick France made the motion, and who was the second on that?
I
Kayla.
think
Shayla,
Yeah,
thank you.
Shayla.
Okay. And also Richard, Jeff Leake has now joined the meeting.
Okay, great. Welcome, Jeff. All right, is there any, now the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay. You see any hands waving?
No.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Scott? Okay. That was you, Scott, right?
Yep.
All right. Jeff?
I missed the motion, so if you could just tell me what it is quickly.
The
It's the
consent agenda.
The consent agenda.
Okay, yep, I'm all set. Aye.
Okay. Does that cover all of them?
Yep, you can ask if there's any opposition. Any opposed?
Not, as chair for 21 years, I don't ask that.
All right.
Some chairs do, I don't. All right, we'll move on to the finance. Okay, we need action for the treasurer's report. We have a motion, please.
So move.
Okay, Dick.
Second.
Okay, is it
Shayla.
Shayla?
Yep.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the treasurer's report? If not, all those, please raise your hand or say
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, that's everybody. I apologize because I don't have, I
Right.
don't see everybody
Yeah,
on here.
I didn't, I saw most hands R and I think everyone.
Okay. Okay,
I
The
can
next-
see you guys, but I can't hear you. I'm on the phone.
Who is this?
that's Sue.
Susan,
Oh, Susan. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, I can't get you on the computer, but I can hear you on the phone and I can see you on the computer.
Okay, good.
Good.
All right, the next one is banking resolution for transition to newly elected treasurer, taking effect July 1. Are we getting a new treasurer?
We are, yes.
Elected at the last time meeting.
Right. Yeah. So Stephanie Mulligan decided not to run again.
Oh,
Ed Woods put in the petition and was elected in March. So he'll be starting July 1. We've started the transition to get things ready for him to kind of hit the ground running July 1. And one thing we need to do is add him and his assistant as signers on all of the accounts. So what you have before you in the packet today was 2 options for a resolution that People's United provided. One of them being a newer one, the omnibus resolution, which would enable one dedicated person to actually make changes to signers on the account, to add accounts, to change accounts. The other standard resolution is one that we typically see in that any changes have to come before the board, with the board authorizing the board chair to go ahead and sign that resolution if all are in agreement with the changes being presented. So because they do have those 2 options, I did want to provide that to the board for your consideration. One thing that they did indicate as kind of a catch on the omnibus resolution is that the one dedicated person also has to be a signer on the account. So I had them prepare it with the new treasurer being listed, but I don't know because he's so new if we just want to keep things the way that we have been and bringing everything back before the board at this point in time. So I'm happy to answer any other questions about it or.
okay. Well, I apologize. First, we should have a motion. Could I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to offer the transition of the newly elected treasurer taking effect July 1st.
Second.
Second.
Okay, now, is there any other discussion on this? Anyone want to say something on it?
I guess I'm confused. The routine we've been following for years sounded like it had to do with bringing everything before the board, but that doesn't sound like a very practical maneuver for me.
Renee?
Right, and so that is why they've developed this second option of the omnibus resolution that the board can act upon. Again, dedicating that one sole person to be able to make those decisions kind of on behalf of the school district. Because he is a new treasurer coming in, I didn't know if the board would be comfortable with that right at the outset. So I had them prepare both resolutions in case you wanted to keep things as they are. At least for perhaps the first term, but it's completely up to you.
Yeah, so what's the board's pleasure?
I think we go with the treasurer.
Yeah. Okay, can somebody else give their opinion?
So we have either the board's approving it or the treasurer's approving it all the time, correct?
Yes,
Right in hearing that.
Right.
So the omnibus, the treasurer has complete control.
correct.
Is there any legal issues? Like, I mean, do we need oversight on the treasurer? I mean, I guess that's the big question.
I know what the attorneys advise us in the past is that as a matter of habit, we accept the treasurer's report, but it's a practice that we do that isn't really, but you're not
Okay,
bound to it. It's habit that we've done that, but it's the treasurer's report. It's their report. They're elected separately. So, Dina has advised that that's not a necessary step, but boards tend to do it anyways. They're independent on their report.
Did we not have this option previously? Or we've just never chose to utilize it?
We did execute it when Stephanie came on board. Stephanie had been acting as the assistant treasurer for both Mount Anthony
yeah.
and SVSU for quite some time. So I think that's why everyone was pretty comfortable with it at that point in time.
Okay.
Okay, what's your pleasure?
What's the risk of complete control to the treasurer? I mean, there's still a checks and balance there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would expect that things would still be flowing, through our office, and annually as part of our audit, we reach out to all the financial institutions in the area to confirm any accounts that are open and who they have as signers on them. The hope is that we wouldn't have people just opening accounts under the school district's EIN, because therefore the board is then responsible for, that account.
So Renee, I guess I'll just ask, and you, if you can't answer this, feel free. What would be your preference from an ease of workflow, ease of getting things done perspective from the SU?
I don't necessarily foresee any reason for us to make changes anytime in the near future. We got all of the, like when we've had staffing changes. So like when Donna Basic started a couple of years ago, we got her added to the account as a signer. As part of this, we're going to be adding Elizabeth Grunberg as a signer when she takes over for Edie. So beyond that, I don't see a need for us to make any changes until perhaps we had a new treasurer come in. So I kind of see it as 6 one way, half a dozen the other. It would just be one additional board item if there was a change that we had to, take care of on an upcoming agenda sometime in the future.
So if we leave it the way it is and say 6 months down the road, you see a problem, then we can just readjust this. Is that correct?
If you wanted to execute the omnibus resolution, yeah, we would have to just execute a new resolution altogether to kind of change that back to making it a board prerogative.
Right. So what you're saying,
Yeah, I was gonna
you're
say,
comfortable
Dick,
with
with your longevity, I have a huge, I'd love to know your perspective when it comes to this.
Me?
Yeah,
I think as a rule, we don't know what we're doing unless we're told. And
I
that
would
kind of,
agree. I mean, that's how I feel. So tell me.
Yeah,
that kind of puts us in with the treasurer,
yeah.
from my point of view. We have oversight because of Renee and Jim anyway.
Exactly. I mean, that's
Yeah.
we're the check and balance, but if there's already a layer there, what's the
That's what
most
I'm thinking.
efficient thing we can do?
Yeah, also, if he's not comfortable and he would rather keep it the same, I would say we keep it the same, seeing he's gonna, how long is his term? And
It's
make
through-
him comfortable in that job.
Yeah, 3 years. The term is 3 years.
That's appropriate.
Will we still get the reports? Because I do like those, even though we're not
Yes, you will.
bound.
Yeah, that's important. All right, so do we have a motion? Jeff, did you make a motion?
I made the motion, yes. We're in discussion now.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Did we get a second?
No, we didn't get a second. No. Okay, is there any other discussion for this issue?
What was the motion?
The motion initially was, and this is what got us to this point, was the bank resolution for transition to the elective treasurer of July 1st. Then we open it to discussion. And so we just had to pick which one we're going to do. Is it in the ombudsman or are we into the board? So mean, it sounds like everybody here is looking at Edwards being the omnibus with control, and then we'll get the treasurer's report at the meetings.
at the meetings.
If I'm saying that right, Renee.
Yes, that is correct. He would, yeah, have authority to open, close, change signers, and he will be providing a monthly report as well, yes.
Stephanie. So I didn't make that motion, and we go with the omnibus business deposit account.
Okay.
I'll
and
second.
Well, I think well, all right.
All right, so, well, if we changed it, I'll be there. Otherwise, I'm sure Shayla's right behind me.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand or saying yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Cindy, can we just make sure that the minutes reflect that the board is okay with waiving the reading of the resolution and then also authorizing the board chair or vice chair to sign on behalf of the board?
Okay. So, do we need another motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dick.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone against it? Okay, I've got it.
Thank you.
All right. The next one on the list is the truck bid award. I have a motion for that.
Move to approve Carmody Ford.
Second,
Okay. All right, and this is the amount of the truck is $65,292, and it's going to be a $1,545.51 per month for 48 months. So,
Correct.
any discussion on that?
Mhm.
So this is the truck that goes to Pownell?
No, it's for Bennington.
This is the Bennington truck?
Yes.
It's a district truck, so it
Okay.
will be
Oh.
used district-wide.
District wide.
where's
okay.
Jerry? Where's Jerry?
Right here.
Finally, you get your truck.
I know. Thank you very much.
How many years?
4 and approved every time, but we didn't get to this level.
Well,
Just
we
make
haven't
sure that's
approved,
the same
we
truck.
haven't approved it yet. Don't get too excited.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. All right, Cindy, take and calm down.
All right, if there's no more discussion, is there any more discussion on this?
And we
issue?
only had the one bid?
Yeah,
No,
that's
there were,
all.
no, well,
Yes, we
This is-
reached out to seven
Seven.
entities, but only one
yes,
response.
one responded, okay.
Okay.
All right, if there's no more discussion on this, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I didn't see everybody, so I guess it passed.
Thank you very much. I'll appreciate it.
Welcome,
Yes.
Jerry.
Drive it in good health.
Enjoy that new truck smell.
All right, the next one is Molly Stark PTG donation. Can I have a motion?
So we didn't have anything to actually put in the packet for the board to consider, but there's a $250 donation coming from the Molly Stark PTG to cover some activity sets that they wanted to purchase, but it was found that more advantageous for the school to actually purchase it because there's a discount because the school has an account.
Right.
So the school is going to go ahead and order, and then we just need the board to accept the reimbursement of $250 from the PTG.
Okay,
Move to accept with thanks.
okay. Second?
Second.
Second.
All right, thank you. That was Richard and was it Chayla or Tammy? One of you.
I think Tammy beat me.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Chayla. All right, so all those in favor signify by saying yes or raising your hand.
Yes.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
okay, good. Next on the agenda is the Chessberry door replacement bid award. Okay, you have a motion?
I'll make the motion to replace the door at Shasberry.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion been made and second. Is there any discussion on this?
Mm,
And we're looking to award the bid to Royal. Let me just pull it up here. The Royal Group. We did receive a secondary bid, which was more expensive. So in talking with Jeff and Jay, recommendation and their preferences to go with the Royal Group to do this work. We're going to do two sets of doors now, and then we do have budgeted in FY 22 to do the remaining set. So we'll put it out to bid again, and then we'll have another award coming back to the board in the future.
Now,
I could
which
amend
door?
the motion to include, to add Royal Group to the motion.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this?
Which
I
doors
just
are?
want to ask, I want to make sure, Jeff, you feel absolutely comfortable with this from a operational perspective at Chessberry Elementary.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually between the two projects, it'll be all the exterior main doors. So it's something we were going to do last year until COVID hit, and then we had to table it for cost purposes. So yeah, we definitely need this done. As you guys have seen, I think the last board meeting you guys came here, you saw the doors and how they leaked terribly. They didn't lock very well, so it's definitely overdue.
So are these all the exterior doors then, Jeff? The main entrance?
Just the not the classroom doors, but like the main entry doors, the nurse's door, the door at the very front of the building, Jay's doors.
The main egress doors.
Yeah.
Enter and egress doors. Okay.
All right, good. Any other discussion on this? If not, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Wow, I think I heard them all. All right, very good. All right, next in line is the superintendent's report.
The superintendent is yielding tonight to all the wonderful administrators gathered here tonight. We haven't had our principals with us for a while, but Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, Melissa Senecal, and Assistant Superintendent Laura Boudreau have before you the continuous improvement plan for the district, which is required by the state, which we would have presented to you before, but COVID delayed that. So it's a requirement that we present to the board the continuous improvement plan. Principals are here to be able to talk about how it impacts their school and whatever questions you may have. So Melissa or Laura, who's going first?
So
Laura?
I'll introduce us, and thanks for having us. We again, we're going to do this exactly a year ago. We spent most of the last school year working as a leadership team to develop the district plan based on data, and then each school, and that's part of the requirement, is then each school builds off the district plan. And then we also, we're trying to present all of these plans to you, so to share the work and figure out how to do that with 6 schools working together, and we have a plan. So in just a moment, Melissa Senecal, Melissa, I'm assuming I'm sharing my screen. Are you sharing your screen? I'm sharing my screen. Great. I am going to share my screen and Melissa is going to start. There are spots where the principals are going to jump in and share little snippets. The one thing that we ask, just so we can flow through so you get the whole picture, is to wait to the end, and then we'll invite you to ask us questions.
Makes
All right,
sense.
Melissa, are you ready? Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I know, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, share my screen. This screen, share, and then hit present. Melissa, is that right?
You got it, lady. Perfect.
Okay.
So that would be my dog. I apologize. This thought I had somebody babysitting her. I really am so sorry. Laura, I might have to turn it over to you for just a minute. I'm so sorry. I feel terrible.
We love dogs, don't worry.
Yeah, we do.
So we wanted to remind everyone that to the shift from No Child Left Behind to Every Student Succeeds Act requires us to look at continuous improvement. So the shift is a move from accountability to continuous improvement, which we appreciate because it highlights monitoring growth. So our Vermont Educational Quality Standards and Act 77 focus on students through accountability and continuous improvement. So there again is that reminder about growth.
I'll tag back in.
Are you back?
I'm back, tagging back in.
Okay, okay, go.
So next slide. Awesome. So what is a continuous improvement plan? Well, it is a system where we say that in all educational systems we can improve. And we do that through review, measurement, action. And although it doesn't say that there, it's progress monitoring, how those are going. And the SVSU Continuous Improvement Plan was used as the foundation that drove the development of each of our elementary schools, all of our schools, continuous improvement plans that you'll hear a little bit about tonight. The SVSU shared vision, the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union is committed to developing lifelong learners who contribute to their community and succeed in a diverse and evolving global society. And now I turn it to Principal Dunn for the Bennington Elementary vision.
Thank you, Melissa. Bennington Elementary School seeks to provide and foster behavioral and social competence leading to academic excellence for all students by providing a safe, kind, and respectful learning environment where all can feel a sense of belonging and purpose. Principal Basic.
They practiced the sequence of this, can you?
We did.
Well, we can confess to the board though, the parent was like, we struggle, like, what's the alphabetical order of the schools? So
No, yeah, we're doing BSD, and then Donna, get your cue ready. Donna Coley.
Okay. So, okay. Molly Stark Elementary School is committed to empowering our students to be lifelong learners focused on growing knowledge, community, and compassion in our diverse and evolving global society. Principal Colley.
Thank you, Donna. And Monument Elementary School, are striving for academic excellence, behavioral and social competence within a unified community to which everyone belongs. Thank you very much. And now that it's changed a little bit, I'm not sure who's next.
Pownell.
At Pownell School, Pownell Elementary School is dedicated to providing opportunities and experiences which enable children to be conscientious citizens and lifelong learners with respect for themselves, each other, and our world. Off to Shaftesbury.
Thanks, Todd. Shasbury Elementary Vision, a positive learning environment and engaging instruction in the curriculum ensures students have the opportunity to meet or exceed standards academically, socially, emotionally, and physically. We have a culture of professional collaboration and an infrastructure that effectively and efficiently uses the expertise and dedication of our highly qualified staff and available resources. Principal Foster.
Hollow School embraces innovative education, focusing on curriculum, social emotional wellness, physical activity, and community involvement. Melissa and Laura.
Thank you very much. So with our district-wide areas of focus, we have 5. We have English language arts, reading, writing, and speaking, safe and healthy, which would be our social emotional learning and behavior, and math, science, and personalization like goal setting. For our elementary schools, their areas of focus flow into English language arts, safe and healthy, and math. Our very first goal is English language arts, and we used the most recent assessment data that we had from Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, and also the measures of academic progress, also known as MAPS, in order to evaluate what our focus area needed to be. And that was in early literacy and evidence-based practices for our students, all of our students. So where are we at? Highlighted. We've gone through a year. Wow, it's been quite a year, but I do have some highlights. And so from the district level, I'll share foundational skills were definitely highlighted in the science of reading professional learning that's gone on for a year-long series that will have all of our K-1-2, both teachers and specialists, cycle through. Very exciting to have brain-based research to say these are the best ways to give foundational skills and literacy to all of our students. And now I'd like Principal Dunn highlight.
So Bennington Elementary's change idea in ELA mirrors the district plan. We will implement continuous focused professional development in evidence-based early literacy instruction for all K-5 staff, with an emphasis on timely and consistent progress monitoring of students. Principal Basic.
Donna, you're muted.
I apologize. Thank you, Laura. So the ELA change idea, number 1 at Molly Stark, implementation and routines for literacy, to provide a 90-minute block of literacy in the master schedule daily to ensure fidelity of tiered instruction. Principal Colley.
Thank you, Donna. So Monument Elementary School's main change idea, the number 1, is to implement evidence-based academic tier 1 literacy programming with fidelity and monitor through collaborative data meetings with specialists and classroom teachers, as well as participating as administrators in all of this professional learning. Principal Phillips.
Thank you. And the change idea for ELA at Pownell School, you'll see a pattern here. We're implementing evidence-based academic tier 1 literacy programming with fidelity for all students. That includes our foundations in Reading Street, and we monitor that with our literacy master schedule and our daily PLCs, professional learning communities. Off to Chessberry to Principal Johnson.
Thank you, sir. So continuing with the theme, our English language arts action step is effectively collaborating as a staff using student data and progress monitoring to identify tiered instruction with evidence-based practices. Principal Foster.
And we will continue with peer-to-peer coaching with constructive collaboration. We target off-site learning opportunities to build vocabulary and background knowledge. We use an objective use with our intervention specialists and supplemental supports. Thank you. Melissa.
Thank you. So we're going to move into goal number 2, also known as safe and healthy. The data that we used in order to make decisions and have our focus area is our school-wide information system, also known as SVUESD. And we use the student risk screening scale, internalizing and externalizing data. And we wanted to make sure that we have a consistent and efficient data gathering process in order to guide next steps for instruction and, of course, intervention. How have we done? I have to take a moment to highlight a group of people led by our SVSU behavior coach, Jessa Ordway, and her team from every single one of our buildings that has gone above and beyond in this area in creating and integrating a system in order to make next steps for this particular goal area. So they've not just created and piloted, but they've moved beyond in a very difficult year so that we can progress monitor and make sure that the SVSU has behavioral and social emotional tiered strategies for all of our students. Principal Dunn.
Bennington Elementary, in keeping with some of the trainings and focus of the SVSU, will integrate trauma-informed learning and principles within our tiered system of positive behavioral interventions and support, otherwise known as PBIS, to better meet the social and emotional needs of our students. Molly Stark.
Thank you. So our change idea number 1, the staff will have a universal understanding of trauma-informed practice and response to problematic behavior. Whole staff professional learning opportunities will be in the knowledge and area of restorative practices. Principal Colley.
Thank you, Donna. So at Monument Elementary School, our staff is continuing to have a universal understanding of trauma-informed practice, and in order to respond to problematic behavior. Our ways of doing that are through whole staff professional learning opportunities to build capacity and knowledge in the following areas: biological, environmental, and social foundations of trauma, attachment and attunement, developing supportive relationships, mindful de-escalation techniques, and implement consistent and universal strategies and interventions for learners demonstrating symptoms of developmental trauma. Thank you. And Principal Phillips.
Thank you. Change idea number 1, safe and healthy schools at Pownell. Whole staff professional learning opportunities to build capacity and knowledge in the areas of trauma-informed practices and the incorporation of self-regulation strategies in the classroom zones of regulation. Principal Johnson.
Thank you. Chessberry, safe and healthy schools, our change idea, provide professional learning opportunities for all staff in the areas of trauma-informed practices, restorative justice, and effective responses and interventions to support students exhibiting both externalizing and internalizing behaviors. Sandy, after you.
Thank you. So our goal is to increase students' ability to understand and apply universal character decisions when faced with challenging situations. And we hope to guide students in understanding a progress approach which fosters the belief that the social emotional competencies are not instinctive, but skills developed. Melissa.
Thank you very much. So our last goal that we're going to focus on today, and I want to highlight the fact that this is all about freedom and unity. You hear the unity of all of these connected thoughts, but the freedom of having it fit to each of the needs of the building. So kudos to all of the principals. Math, we looked at, again, the most recent data from the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium and MAP, also known as Measures of Academic Progress, to have a evidence-based instructional resources and progress monitoring that would be in the early math practices and evidence-based conceptual math practices for all students. And I would highlight a lot of the professional learning that is happening, mostly in the areas of conceptual understanding and modeling when it comes to mathematics and how that's important. We've leaned on the Vermont-based All Learners Network, or ALN, in order to provide us some of that. And of course, our SVSU district level coach, Pat Conway. And I turn it over to Principal Dunn.
At Bennington Elementary School, under the guidance of our math coach, we will implement a math menu model to include number talks as our instructional organizational model, K5, to assure the fidelity of tiered instruction in mathematics across the school. Molly Stark.
Thank you. So our change idea number 2 at Molly Stark is tiered instruction, using collaboration to interpret the data and develop targeted instruction using evidence-based practices. This will be done through weekly professional learning communities, conversations in the math menu, and math language. Principal Colley.
Thank you. So I'd like to share the second change idea for Monument Elementary School in the area of mathematics, which is using our collaborative time to interpret data and develop targeted instruction using evidence-based practices, which shows that unification across our SU. And Principal Phillips.
Thank you. Change idea for math at Pownell. Implement evidence-based academic tier 1 math programming with fidelity for all students using GoMath, and dedicated scheduling block of time to collaborate with specialists like our coaches, interventionists, to support evidence-based practices. Principal Johnson.
Thank you. Chessberry's math change idea is implementation of evidence-based academic tier 1 math programming with fidelity and progress monitoring through collaborative data meetings and with specialists and classroom teachers, as well as staff support with professional learning opportunities. Principal Foster.
Thank you, Jeff. And we are adding peer-to-peer coaching with a constructive collaboration and a focus on word problems. We use math centers and independent work as well, and group time to assist students in recognizing strategies for multi-step word problems. Thank you. Melissa.
Thank you very much, Sandy. So now I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Boudreau, because our continuous improvement plan really flows into where we're at right now in recovery, because both plans are about being better. Laura?
So recovery is the part of the process we're using this year to review the data that we do have access to create plans to address the impact of the pandemic, which we know is going to be a multi-year plan. The focus areas are social, emotional, mental health and well-being, student re-engagement, academic achievement and growth, and staff well-being. We do have an SVSU recovery team with representation from each building and departments and community stakeholders. We also had an entire staff survey and family survey to also collect feedback to impact the plan, which will align with the continuous improvement plan goals. One of the requirements was an initial needs assessment, which was presented to the Agency of Education on April 15th. It was approved. It's also on our website. We have a recovery link on our website where you can go and review further information. For social, emotional, mental health, and well-being, the team looked at the student risk screening data, which is different than in normal years because we had students in hybrid mode. We have students that are remote. And so one thing that we did pull out from the data is that in grades K through 5, for externalizing, an example would be behavior that we can see or aggressive behavior. We had that there was a high risk, the high risk percentage is about 6%. And also for grades K through 5, internalizing, almost 80% had low to moderate risk. An example of an internalizing behavior is shy, sad, lonely. Those are things that we look for. We had 34 new pre-K through 12 homeless referrals starting at the beginning of the school year for this year between the window of August 24th and March 31st. And we're working and partnering with community agencies to support those families. The second area that we looked at was student re-engagement, and the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment was able to do a poll for work habits, which is something that we measure that's linked to the transferable skills. And one area, students were rarely or sometimes demonstrating the responsibility category of habits of work on the most recent report card. Some examples of responsibility that we look for involve citizenship, taking responsibility for personal decisions and actions. The entire district student attendance decreased between September 2020 and January 2021. So those were pieces of data that the team used and is currently using to craft potential action steps. And the last area is academic achievement and growth. We were able to do a deeper dive and look at, we followed a cohort of students from the 1920 school year to the 2021. And we realized, the team realized through that piece of data review that the two grade levels of concern to monitor in the area of reading are first and second graders. And we are also following the at-risk percentage at the kindergarten level. And for math, only the current 7th grade had a decrease in at-risk percentages from last year. All other grades from 1st to 8th have had an increase of at-risk, which is an area that we want to focus on and address. So, and again, we're looking at our current kindergartners. So these were little pieces of data we were able to pull from this period of time that help us to reflect back and create action steps, and also look at our current continuous improvement plan action steps to make plans for over the course of the next few years to support our students. we will also we will use the action steps that we've created to plan for the use of our ESSER grant money and our title funding that we plan for every year. So Melissa, I'll let you bring it home.
Awesome. So you can see that the SVSU Continuous Improvement Plan is the framework for those next steps of recovery and our plan for all of our learners. We would build it on the educational quality standards from Vermont, our annual snapshots when they are most up to date, those 3-year integrated field reviews and feedback from those, and it produces what we were able to present tonight. And I thank all the principals for being a part and collaborating in the continuous improvement plans.
So any questions for us?
I'll monitor for that. See if anybody puts a hand up. Any questions of the team on that presentation? Jeff Leake.
Oh, I probably have a slew of questions. So this goes back to the 2019 NEEP scores that were reported out by Secretary Dan French of how Vermont had a 17-year decrease in reading scores for 4th graders. Specifically, it was 35% were reading below basic level. Effectively, we have 2/3 of kids in the state of Vermont reading at basic or below, with 35% of those readings below basic in 4th grade. When you do all these presentations and reports, it's great, but how are our kids doing compared to the state kids? Because with the NEEP scores, we can't pull out per school. So can we, as the board members, have a snapshot of how our kids are performing? Are we equal to the state kids? Are we worse than state average? Or where do we fall? Because effectively in the state of Vermont, we have 1/3 of our kids reading at proficient or above. So how are our kids doing compared to the rest of the state? I mean, we keep talking about this information, but we never see data.
I'm not going to ask anyone to pull that report out of the air, but we could. I'm taking questions as they're asked, and if we can answer them now, or as opposed to put them on a future agenda meeting to be responded when we have all the information. So I don't know, Melissa, I don't know if you have a quick response to that, or you want to pull more data.
I do want to, the annual snapshot, which was in that last slide, Mr. Leake, it comes from the state of Vermont. And the challenge that we have right now is that the data that feeds into that annual snapshot, which would be the area that shows the comparison, which you asked about, where we would need those current scores. And we did not have the scores from last spring. I don't know when they will have the snapshot updated, but as soon as they do, we would let all of the boards know that's available, and that's where we find those comparisons. But to also tag on to that and to emphasize, I think that we saw the need for foundational skills and evidence-based tiered instruction and focusing on tier 1. And so we are into doing that from the data that we saw.
Okay. Just because we've been talking about this since Donna Leap was here, and we don't see data as a board. Like, how are our kids doing? Are these programs working for our children? Are we seeing improvement for our children? As a board member, it's hard to keep justifying, cost of these programs when we don't know what the programs are we're using. We talk about brain-based, evidence-based programs. What programs in particular are we using? I know Donna had a list of those programs, but last time I asked, it was kind of up in the air what programs are we using for these recovery services. And as a taxpayer, if we're going to start paying for programs, I want to start seeing results of our kids' reading scores. We can't keep looking at a 17-year decrease in the state of Vermont for our children in their reading. It's not ethical. It's not just. So, I mean, we have a problem in the state of Vermont. Secretary French addressed that 2 years ago. So we need to, do something for our kids. It's not getting better. And, COVID didn't help our kids. These kids are now severely behind. And we all know from the brain-based research, evidence-based program out there that the best time to catch these kids is early on and before 4th grade. After that, we start having emotional problems, and comorbidities that go along with lack of reading. We know it correlates with dropout. We know it correlates with prison in the state of Vermont. So what are we doing as a district to get these kids early and get them on grade level?
Okay, do we have someone else that has a question?
I suppose I will, and I'll fly out. I don't know. I'll try and fly out 30,000 feet. I'll be the first to admit that when it came to merging, I was not a huge fan. But here we are, and I'm on the board, and I'm trying to embrace what we've got and change my way of thinking from a it's my town perspective to it's our region perspective. And actually, the more I've done that, the healthier it's been for me. And so I hear this, and I love all that I've heard, though we've got a lot of schools with many of these topics were saying the same thing. However, many of them were something which was welcomed, I'll add. Though a lot of it was something that was different from school to school. And I can't help but think more of our region more as an ecosystem, and what are we dealing with from a attracting business to hiring workers to making Vermont accessible to people who are younger, as opposed to being a place where people go to retire if it's not Florida. But what does all of that look like? And I still can't help but ask, and maybe this isn't the place for me to ask it, but here I am. So what does it look like if we truly start to think of this as a full region and not Pownell, Shaftesbury, Bennington, Molly different than Monument. And I realize all of those things are different, but if there's an opportunity here, and I'm gonna throw this challenge out there, and we were working on it prior to COVID, and this meeting stopped, and maybe it goes nowhere, but if we truly think of ourselves as a region and an educational powerhouse, and if we know that we have to attract people to this region by being an educational powerhouse, what does it look like if we could have anything we want? What does it look like? Is it a regional elementary school? Is it elementary schools that are thinking exactly the same? And when I say regional, I'm talking from Pownell to Shaftesbury, state of the art, dealing with all of the complexities that we've got right now that are challenges to educating a very, very, very diverse student body? Or is it Bennington and we still manage outliers? I don't know what it looks like, but if there's federal money that's available and there's opportunities, then hearing this, I wasn't going to say anything, but hearing this makes me think, all right, gloves are off. What does it look like if we are fully creative and dynamic in the way we think about educating the young students of we've got it already from the middle school out through the high school, but from the young students throughout our district. That's how we're gonna make this region a powerhouse, not only for education, but for business and commerce and development. I've said it.
Well said.
So I have to ask, I mean, is that Jim, we started to go down paths of talking this way, and it for very, very good reason. Don't get me wrong. Those conversations had to be diverted, but it hasn't left me. If I'm put in this position as a board member representing the town of Shaftesbury to think dynamically about this region, because that's what I think the state challenged us to do, then that's what I have to do here, while still also obviously considering, the students that are, I'm on the Bennington town line, so the students that are north of me, but also the students, I can throw a rock and hit the Bennington town line, so the students that are south of me too.
I don't think we should ever stop striving to be better or to be the best school system that we can. the challenges are diverse throughout our district. So what do we do to get back on track for that? Whether, I think one way to continue to focus is maybe, for lack of a better term, a task force that's given a charge to come back with what that is. And, that could have, board members, community members, I'm not looking for another committee to meet with, but it is a way to keep the focus, because these meetings tend to get more in the mechanics of running the system. But if you're, what we're talking about here is philosophy and a vision that we want this to go to. And I think there'd be plenty of takers who would want to meet and talk to, and I do want to say that many of the people who are on this meeting do that on a regular basis. The principals, Laura, Melissa, that they strive to improve every day. But as we all know, there can be more. And Jeff's right about what happens to. I'm always amazed that when I'm dealing with high school or middle school students and see how far behind they are. And the question I always ask is, how did they get this far? How did this happen? And I have no further words to say other than it's a challenge, and we should be up to that challenge. And we can create a group that focuses on that as an advisory to the direction we want to take this district. Because things that I've talked about is like with all these elementary schools, why are they all run exactly the same way? Why isn't some of the elementary schools given a focus or as like a magnet school that has, here is a school that focuses on the arts. Here's a school that focuses on STEM, and that if we have inter-school choice, then people could petition to go to the school because that is an interest of focus to their child. That's something that I would, like to see happen, but it begins with exactly what, Scott said about the transformation that he's personally had, that my focus needs to be all students, yet you can't help it. You're from Chessberry, your kids go to Chessberry. That's where you got on the board, Chessberry. And this first forced merger has made us focus and think differently, but with it comes opportunities. Like what I will go back, like all schools shouldn't be run the same. And maybe, and we haven't done, in this past year is really the creative thinking has been focused on survival and keep operating. And, that partnership also has to include our unions. We work in a unionized environment with the restrictions that are in those contracts. So, but I like what Scott had to say about, let's plan the model first before we worry about whether we can afford it. And then, then go into the reality of that. So like, what should this look like? What should this vision? So, I've seen other school districts, call it, strategic planning. I'm not a big labeler for what that is, but where do we want to go? Where do we want this district to look like in 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years? And begin the work to do that. So I'm fine with taking the charge of putting a group like that together and brainstorm of and have an in-depth discussion like this, like and it's not just here, it's MAU, it's got to be a connection between all boards. And, so whether that is maybe an SU version that has everybody, like MAU has their education committee, but it's focused on what is going on there, education wise. And I've often said that, no, it's got to be everyone, because one feeds the other. It's not like we don't know where our students at the high school or middle school are coming from. We know where they're coming from. And I've seen from Melissa some incredible data that, of where the data that we can generate from how our students are doing at schools it's very insightful for me. We have to be careful where we share that data because, it can point back to individual classrooms. It can point back to individual schools and leadership. And so, we use it as a tool to see what direction that we want to go to. But a lot of what you're looking for, we have. How we can share it, not violate contracts or privacy, is something that we have to learn how to balance.
For me, just to make sure that it's no criticism of the teachers. I know the teachers, administration's doing hard work. I've personally worked with other parents in the state on the reading issues in the state of Vermont. As you know, it has been highlighted that it is a problem in the state. So, there are some parents who are working on this at the state level as well. But, I want to commend all the teachers doing everything, but it's just, when you start seeing some of the scores at the state level, it's sad when you start seeing them. And when you have
it's a challenge nationally. I wouldn't say it's just the state of Vermont.
Yeah, it is.
The only state that did well was Mississippi. They had the last growth in the NEEPs. So, it is a challenge, but I think, as Scott said, we have a community. We can do this. We just have to make sure that we come up with a good mission to make sure that all of our kids succeed, so we become a destination point for jobs and for people to move here. It takes some strong leadership, and I want to make sure we have the leadership there to bring all the kids up to where they need to be successful in life.
All right, is there anyone else that has a question?
Yeah, let me just circle back briefly. Jim, I appreciate you offering to take this off. It probably means rekindling the committee that had been formed prior to COVID throwing a wrench into everything. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that we've all talked about this here, but I would like to make sure that we can do things to keep it going, especially if there is an opportunity to do things from a financial and monies available perspective that we might not have 12 months from now. How can we capitalize on it sooner rather than later, obviously without making rash decisions or things that are not founded in the best possible data to get us there.
Okay, is there anyone else that has a remark or a question? Okay, Jim, I can't see if anyone has their hand up.
I'm not seeing hand up, and I just have a couple of housekeeping things to say to complete my report. The biggest one is we still don't know what the beginning of next school year is going to look like. And I keep asking, and what we're being told from the state, that it will be mid to late June before we know what will be allowed. What my biggest concern is, if we have to return to school and wearing masks, then I'm fine with that. Inside, wearing masks. If they keep the physical restrictions in place, we're going to struggle to get all our students back. But my goal is go back to the normal schedule, the original start time that we all had, and 5 days per week when we go to school. If we still have that 3-foot restriction, we're going to have trouble, particularly with our middle and high school, and especially when it comes to eating in the buildings, if that physical distancing is still there. They are going to stop getting to vaccinate children. We learned today that it's the same site. I want to quote the right date. I believe it's the 22nd. Saturday, the 22nd of May, at the former Southern Vermont College, the same vaccination site that the hospital's been running. It's going to be open to students and walk-ins, and we're going to have more information about that hopefully tomorrow, and then our public information coordinator will help get the message out to families that students are now eligible 12 and up to get vaccinated. The more students that we can get vaccinated, the more likely that they're going to take that physical restriction off that is impacting how we deliver education. Because in some of our schools, we still have over 25% of families fully remote, have not returned to school. And that option is going to evaporate as we start school next year and if that's the case and everyone comes back, we still have to physically distance on buses and in buildings, we're going to struggle for a solution. So we will help promote the vaccination of the students and encourage people to do it. As I said, that'll be May 22nd. The portal is not ready yet for families to go on and sign up, but we will use our K-12 alert system to let in our Facebook pages and our website to help families get that information and get them through that process and encourage them to get vaccinated. So there were some discussion about having it at the middle school, but it's complicated if we have students in the building and the public is also walking in the building, and then buses, and it wasn't going to be a good mix in the building. The cafeteria is not available because that is where the Abbey group is doing all the distribution of foods out to the school. So it would have been the gymnasium. There's no direct outside access inside the gymnasium. So the Department of Public Health and Agency of Education and the Southwestern Vermont Medical Center are going to continue to keep it with that vaccination. And we're very pleased with that decision. And we're going to do our best to help support and get that done. So, and summer planning is well underway. And as was mentioned in the beginning under public comment, we will continue to explore what happens for next year and whether, we know how critical extended day is to families. And I believe in it. I believe in it maybe a different way that some people see it. As we go back to how we make some of our other schools different, I'd like to see, my own personal pilot program, at least one of our elementary schools that, and it would require, negotiating with the Teachers Association and the support staff, that they have a much longer day than what we traditionally see in our schools. And it's not the after school program that you may see. It really is an extended day with education continuing through the day. And obviously there would need to be physical breaks. But in my vision, Scott, Jeff on that committee, I would love that one of the first things we do is a pilot school that has that extended day and with a specific focus. And that will take negotiations and it will take money, because you would be paying the staff that works there a differential for that longer day. And I've seen that success in other schools where there was a school that was had the perception that it was a school that a lot of kids didn't want to go to, or they'd try to go out of and opt out of. And then after this transition happened, there was a waiting list to get into that magnet school. So there's so many things that we should talk about and explore. And any questions for me? I want to thank Laura and Melissa and the principals for all their work that they've done on this continuous improvement.
Yeah, thank you all for being here.
Yes. Okay.
Good to see them all at a meeting again.
That's right, it is.
All right. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Laura and to Melissa. And I appreciate all the hard work that the principals are doing. I know this is an awfully hard time of year, and hopefully come the fall, it'll be much better. So Jim, you don't have anything else under your report?
Not tonight, no.
Okay. Our next meeting, it will be June 8th. Graduation in Pownell, I believe, is going to be June 3rd. And the other question I wanted to ask you, Jim, was I noticed that Pownell attendance was low. Is that due to COVID, or why is our attendance low?
Well, we have the principal here. Maybe he could, I don't have the percentage in front of me of what is remote at each school, but somebody may have it. Todd, can you answer Cindy's question?
I would actually think attendance is lower in all the schools, and I think that was shown on that one slide. But I think it really has to do with COVID and the restrictions that allowing students to be in the building when they have symptoms. Hopefully that coding has been correct with the secretaries and the teachers.
That can
So-
certainly impact it if we
Yeah.
have, yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, so that's all I have to say. Like I said, I want to thank everyone, that program that they just went through. It's an amazing, and I agree with Jeff. I think maybe I understand. I think if we could get some kind of data, and I know you can't share a lot, but I think the board would be interested in each one of the buildings, how we're doing. And I agree with Scott. I'm not a fan of Act 46 either, but I'm trying to wrap my hands around it. But I think each one of us feel that we're responsible for our building. And I think if we could get some kind of information as to how our children are doing, I totally agree with Jeff. That's important. And I'm not, again, I'm like Scott, I'm not blaming the teachers, but I like to see it. I like to see what the result is after this great program that they're going through. Okay, if there's no other business to come before the board, I know you do have your, but the budget status report is included and the student enrollment. So if there's no other business to come before the board, we can entertain a motion to leave.
I guess I just want to clarify, Cindy, just because I may not have been clear with what I said. I'm trying to move past my mindset of being focused on the building. And that was the building for Shaftesbury, for which the town I was elected
Right.
originally to represent, and more toward the region and how do we build the region. And I just want to make sure that my mindset and what I was saying, it's completely clear. That's where my focus has evolved, even if I was somewhat reluctant in getting there or had a hard time getting there. That's where I am today.
And I agree. And I think this is so new to us, this great big consolidation type thing. And for so many years, I mean, I've been on the board 21 years, and all of a sudden now we're one unit. And I too have got a hard time wrapping my hands around it. But I'm open-minded and I'm trying to do the best that we can. And again, we still represent our kids.
Right.
All right. Is there anyone else?
Move to adjourn.
All right, thank you. Can I have a second? All right, I think that was Richard and Scott. Thank you very much, and thank you all that tuned in. This was a long meeting, but it was very fruitful. It was great. Thank you.